Good day, and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video, I kind of wanted to talk about stacking. As you guys know, I've been kind of going through all of the various mechanics in DBZ Dokkan Battle and obviously explaining how they work and how you can best utilize them. But I kind of want to talk about the concept of stacking, or at least how the raising defense mechanic works in terms of Dokkan Battle. Because quite frankly, it's something that a lot of people misunderstand a lot and don't actually know how it works. Because a lot of people will assume that the stacking is exponential. So, for example, when I refer to stacking, I refer mainly to the combat mechanic of raising defense permanently. So, if a unit says raising defense on their super attack, and they don't give a time limit, this is permanently raising defense. Now this ruling, what I'm about to tell you in regards to stacking, applies even to units that raise for 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns, etc. Just their stacks will fall away as they have a time limit, whereas with units that stack permanently, they don't fall away. But stacking defense is not exponential. If a unit raises their defense by 30% in 1 turn, and then raises their defense by 30% in the second turn, this does not include the previous 30%. So to make the example super simple, if a unit has 100k defense and raises their defense by 30% to 130k, they will not then raise their defense by 30% of 130k, they'll raise their defense by 30k again. This is the most basic principle of stacking defense. However, if a unit gains defense from their passive, they will then add that defense and to their base borderline numbers, and that will then be raised by their stacking. So for example, Trunks and Vegeta gain defense whenever they get hit up to 75%. That 75% will affect the amount that they are stacking. On super attack and defense raising does not affect the amount you stack, but rather affects your defense afterwards. So if a unit raises their attack and defense by 50% when they super, this will take the entire defense number into account, but the stacking already occurs once the super attack is fired, and so does not take into account this 50% attack and defense when you are stacking. So it's only the part of the passive that exists already, or the part of the passive that occurs simultaneously. So for example, in Gohan's situation, he gains 20% attack and defense each turn. With the previous example of Kulieza gains attack and defense as he fires his super. So his amount of attack and defense gained per turn is not a lot. It's 30% of whatever his borderline defense is. Greatly raising defense also works in the exact same function, it's just a higher percentage. So it's 50% instead of it being 30%. Massively raising defense is doubling your defense. So if a unit massively raises their defense will go from being 100k to being 200k. But it will not then go from 200 to 400, which is a mistake a lot of people make when units fire off double super attacks. A great example is AGL SS4 Goku, a unit people love who massively raises on his 18 and his 12 key. If his defense is 100k and he fires off his 18 key, his defense will go to 200k. If he fires off his 12 key, it will go to 300k, not to 400k. Does that make sense? So just to give you some super basic examples to kind of give you an idea of how it works, we have a very simple example here with Super Saiyan God SS Vegito. Now his turn 1 defense is 132,000, he has no defensive links. That 132,000 is going to go up by 30% every single attack. So it's 132,000 times by 30%. Sorry, 20%. He raises defense only by 20%. It's 132,000 times by 20%. And that's going to go up and be 26,438. So that's it. That's his set gain. You'll notice that he'll move from turn to turn. This turn he fired 2 super attacks, so next turn when you see his defense, you will see it's gone up by 52k. And we can confirm that by seeing that it's gone from 132 to 185. He's now going to only fire a single super attack, and his defense will go from 185 to 211. It's the exact same amount every turn. Defensive links do not contribute to the amount that you stack. So, for example, if a unit has All in the Family, which is a strong defensive link of 20%, that does not affect the amount that the unit stacks, as links do not add to the defensive amount that attacking defense stackers stack up. Otherwise, linking a unit with a unit that has All in the Family would, in theory, make them stack 20% faster than if they weren't linked with a unit that has All in the Family. It's obviously not the case, because if you move that unit away from them, they still stack the same amount. So it's just one of those things. Now, obviously the link will affect the defense after it's been stacked, etc. This is a, obvious thing. But in general, it's just something to keep your mind aware of. So links are not taken into account, on super effects are not taken into account, and that's basically the surmise of it. Anything before supering, so passives, gaining in passives on start of turn like Gohan, or for example like Vegeta and Trunks, or anything that occurs when you are hit will count for stacking, unless that on hit is also temporary in nature. So if it has to occur every single turn, it does not add into the borderline passive. So it's quite a bit to understand, but it's something that's very important to understand. Gohan will have 2 separate raises during the turns that he's out. Gohan's starting is 176, but this is with his first turn increase of 20%, so Gohan's base defense is actually 155k. Gohan's going to raise his defense by 30% of 155k, which is roughly 49,000. 51,000 and some change. Remember, we have to remove the effects of links, and he's going to gain 20 odd thousand from his 20% increase that he gains each turn, because his 20% increase is based on 20% over the original 150. So it's 20 divided by 150 times by 155. It's, don't panic too much about the semantics, but the point is, Gohan going from turn 1 to turn 2 gains 69,000, but that 69,000 is broken into a 49,000 gain from his actual defense raising and 20,000 from his actual attacks. Now, an important thing is next turn his defense is going to go up even more. His defense is going to go up from 32355, or from 245 to 323. And this gain is going to be more than the amount he gained this turn. It's going to be 77 compared to 69. Now, this reasoning for why he gained 7k more than he did previously is because the 20% passive will affect his defensive raising. So, for example, Gohan's 49,000 that he gained now goes up by 20% to being 58,000 or so. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? Basically, his passive is affecting his stacking rate, and this is why later on you'll see when he gets to max stacks, he now stacks 64,500 defense per turn, because these 20% that he's gaining at the start of each turn are multiplying into his start of turn passive defense, and thus affecting the defense that he raises. So it's very, very important to kind of understand this whole mechanic. It's important to understand, your defensive stacks are not affected by defensive stacks. So that's the number one thing I think you can take out of this. The amount of defensive units gained is not affected by previous defensive stacks. This applies to everything. Super Saiyan 4 units, like the GT Bros or the God Bros, the SS4s who massively raise, all of these units, they're not doubling and doubling and doubling. They're just doubling the original baseline defense. Links do not affect the rate at which a unit stacks. And also, something important to understand is that active skills and revives will maintain stacks obtained before they are activated, whereas passive occurrences, so for example Cell's Revive, Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black's transformation, these will not maintain stacks. So it's important to understand the difference between those. Now it's quite a lot to take in. It's a bit more of a nuanced, more complex mechanic than it can first appear to be. But it's important to understand this, especially when you're trying to work with after super attack defenses, that it's not so cut and dry. You're not just doing the very simple premise of exponentially raising your defense by 30%. It's always on the baseline. And it's the same with the LR God Bros and the LR SS4s. If they have 200k defense and they are massively raising that, it's going to 400k, and the second super is making it 600k, not 800k. This is crucial in understanding how to correctly use these units and to understand the benefit that additional stacks gain and give you. So I hope this video assists you in better understanding the differences between these various mechanics and how they all integrate. But that's it from me. See you next time. Bye.